Welcome to I Wrote That, a podcast where we bring authors and industry experts together to talk about all things books and make the journey to authorship just a little bit easier. My name is Larissa Sohan, and I am the CEO of Next Page Publishing, a hybrid publishing house where we help entrepreneurs write books to grow their businesses. In 2021, I published my first sci-fi novel, The Defender, through a hybrid publishing company. And from that experience, I learned exactly what not to do. When I joined with this very big publishing company, I was put in a system that was designed to push out thousands of books a year, and I was just a cog in the wheel. And it was heartbreaking when my first book was published and it was a flop. In that moment, I made it my mission to found a hybrid publishing company that was going to give aspiring authors the experience that they deserve. Now I'm on a mission to help aspiring authors feel like they are in control of the publishing journey and that they are supported by a team of experts who genuinely want the best for them and their books. If you are in the very beginning of your journey, or maybe you have a manuscript that you're finished and you're not sure how to get it out into the world, I encourage you to reach out to us at nextpagepublishing.net. You can schedule your free discovery call and find out how our team of experts can make your journey to being a published author easy, smooth, and successful. Now, without further ado, let's get on to our next amazing guest and make your journey to authorship a little less complicated. Welcome to the solo episode of I Wrote That. I'm really excited to talk about this today because I'm actually hoping to lay the groundwork for all future episodes. So this is definitely an episode you're going to want to tune in, save to download it on your phone, your mobile device, whatever, and come back to it frequently because going forward, all of our episodes are going to reference this episode. So it's really an important one to be a part of because it's going to lay the fundamentals of where you are in the authorship process and what considerations you need to have as you're going forward. So a lot of people think that the most challenging part of becoming an author is going to be the writing component. It's the part that trips people up the most. They really get hung up on, I don't have the time, I don't have the skill. And in reality, being an author is a 4-part process. And I actually have a beautiful little graphic that I might put in a blog post at one point, and it's the pillars of publishing. And you have the 3 pillars, which I'll lay out for you audibly. The 3 pillars are writing, editing, and publishing. And then on the top of the little house that you've created, on the top of the pillars, is marketing. So there are 4 distinct pillars to becoming a successful author. And I do put a lot of emphasis on the word successful because if you took off the roof of that little structure and you just had editing, writing, and publishing, you would still be an author. You just wouldn't be a very successful one. You have to have that overarching roof of marketing. So with the 4 pillars, let's talk about pillar 1, which is writing. And again, this is the part that a lot of people get hung up on, and it stops them from even starting because they're pretty sure they don't have the skill or the time to write the book. So we're going to, in our episodes, when we talk to our authors, we're going to have to ask them a lot about their writing habits. What habits did they create to set themselves up? Because quite often I find with my clients, the number one thing holding them back is that fear of not having enough time. You know, they really, really want to write a book, but they're scared. And usually it comes down to just a misunderstanding of how much time you actually have to dedicate per day, per week to writing your book. And it is entirely up to you how quickly you move. Now, of course, when you partner with someone like me as your publisher, we do have a schedule to keep to, but we set the schedule at a pace that's comfortable yet motivating. And then we hold you accountable to that. But if you're doing this by yourself, if you are just planning to plan and write your book all on your own, there is no timeline but your own. So if you can only give 30 minutes a week to writing your book, that is fine. But you have to get through the writing component. You have to set your mindset that you will write this book. And there are a ton of resources out there to help you do that, including publishers, coaches like myself. So that's phase 1. Phase 1 is writing. Now, phase 2 is the editing portion. And this is actually it can be a breath of relief for the author because it means they're done the heavy lifting of the writing and they get to hand it over. Now, typically, one of two things happens. One, the author is very glad to be done with their work and to hand it over to the experts because they don't want to look at it anymore. Or two, they're really, really nervous to hand their book over because they're not 100% confident in what they wrote, or they're worried that it's not going to sound like them when they get back. And it comes down to that fear of being judged for your skill, for your content, for your stories. And that is a very real fear amongst authors, which is why when we get to the editing phase, it's really important that we pair you with an editor that we know is going to keep the tone of your voice. Like, we have the in-house editing team here that is very, very good at matching your tone and your voice so that you don't get it back when they're done with it and feel like it doesn't sound like you anymore. And we put you through multiple rounds of editing. And I'm going to have more episodes about this, more episodes about the different types of editing and what you can expect from them. But essentially, we put you through 3 types of editing. And these are the big pillars of editing. There's the developmental editing, which is big picture, big story stuff, structure, layout, fundamentals. And then there is line editing or copy editing, which is looking at your manuscript line by line, word by word. And then there is, of course, proofreading. So you don't need all 3 styles of editing. Your work, of course, will be better for it. The more editing you do, the better your work will be. But you absolutely don't need all styles of editing because all styles of editing cost money. Of course they do. So we're gonna do more episodes again, and this is why this is such a fundamental episode to come back to, because we're all going forward, all of our episodes are going to be coded as phase 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if you're looking for answers about editing, you'll be able to look to phase 2 podcasts. So it's going to be really great. So let's move to phase 3, which is the publishing phase. So we're on the 3rd pillar of our little house now. Publishing is just as complicated as any of the rest of them, but it feels more daunting to people because it's the actual step of making your book from a manuscript to a physical book. So you're going to go through the design process during your publishing. You're going to take your PDF or your Word document or whatever and turn it into a physical book. And we'll have episodes on how you can do that. And you're also going to find a cover designer or do your own cover design to make it actually represent what's inside the pages. So it's a really beautiful process, but it can be overwhelming because it in your mind, you're switching from this is just something that I'm going to read to this is something that someone else is going to read. So it can be a little overwhelming. And then you get to the actual, how do I get it into the hands of readers? What is my publishing process that I'm going to follow? And of course, there are the 3 publishing paths. There is hybrid, traditional, and self. And there are pros and cons to all 3. And we, again, watch for phase 3 episodes where we will talk about the different styles of publishing and the pros and cons of each. And of course, we go over this in our monthly mastermind as well. You can find tickets. You can grab your free tickets to that at nextpagepublishing.net. It's our website. You go there, it'll pop up right away, and you grab your free ticket. And we go over the 3 different styles of publishing so in depth so that you have a really good understanding of what you're up against and what path is going to be right for you and your book, because it is a complex decision that you're going to have to live with for the duration of your book's life, most likely. So that's phase 3 is the publishing component. Now phase 4, and phase 4 is fairly inaccurately named, to be honest, because it is the roof over your structure, which means it covers everything. And what that symbolizes is that you need to be thinking of marketing throughout every step of the writing, editing, and publishing. Marketing isn't a pillar that's at the end, it's over top. So you're constantly thinking about it, which is why we have so many marketing experts come on this podcast, because it is incredibly important if you want to be what you would coin a successful author, an author who is actually selling books, earning money off of royalties or coaching fees that they're collecting based on the back of their books. So marketing is really important. So watch for phase 4 videos, and those are the videos that you should be watching regardless of where you're at in your writing publishing journey, because you do want to be thinking about it all the time. In my coaching program, once we nail down your book's mission and vision statement and we know really what this book is going to do and how it's going to serve people, we will start announcing your book to your audience and getting them ready. And that might be 6 months before the book is even ready to publish. And that is how all-inclusive marketing is, because you need to be thinking about it pretty much from day one. How are you going to sell this book? Who are you going to sell it to? Where are you going to find them? What do you need to say? These are all things that come up in the marketing process. All right, that wraps up our sort of introductory session. Again, make sure you download this episode, come back to it. I'll go over the 4 pillars again really quickly. Phase 1 is going to be writing. So any episode that's marked with phase 1 is going to be advice about writing, writing tips, creating storyline, dialogue, using quotes. Any questions that you have about the writing process is going to be found in phase 1 podcasts. Phase 2 is the editing. So any questions you have about finding an editor, working with edits, accepting feedback, that's going to be found in phase 2 podcasts. Phase 3 is going to be your publishing episodes. Which publishing style is better for you? How do you find a publisher? How do you find a literary agent? All of those details about publishing are going to be in phase 3 podcasts. And phase 4 podcasts are going to be your marketing, which again, you can watch regardless of where you are in the publishing journey. Phase 4 podcasts are for everyone, because we want you thinking about how you're going to sell your book, who you're going to sell it to. And of course, for our episodes that have a little bit of everything, they'll be labeled phase 1s, 2, and 4, so that you can get a good look of what you can expect coming from those episodes. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of I Wrote That. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our show so you don't miss any of our upcoming guests. And if this has led you to some inspiration to want to get started on your own authorship journey, whether you just have an idea or you have a manuscript that you're ready to publish, reach out to us at nextpagepublishing.net, and we will match you up with our team of experts to make the journey simple, easy, and smooth.